The knock on the front door came before I even heard the sound of the car pulling into the driveway. 3 sharp knocks, urgent, almost frantic. I opened the door, and there she was, standing with her suitcase, smiling like she'd just won the lottery. Lillian didn't even wait for me to greet her. She rushed past me, her heels clicking on the floor, humming to herself like she was in some kind of romantic movie scene. She twirled once in the middle of the living room, dropped her suitcase with a thud, and shouted, "I missed this place so much." Her smile was wide, almost too wide. I stood frozen by the doorway, staring at her like she was a stranger. Something in my gut told me this wasn't the smile of someone returning from a stressful week of meetings. I bent down to pick up her suitcase, and that's when I saw it. A red hotel keycard wedged between the zipper and the fabric. Not the kind of keycard her company usually uses for conferences. This one had the name of a luxury resort printed on it. My fingers brushed it accidentally, and before I could even pull it out, she spun around, her face draining of color. "Don't touch that," she said, her voice cracking. She grabbed the suitcase from me so fast, it almost knocked me off balance. That smile of hers vanished, replaced by a stiff, trembling expression. For a second, neither of us moved. She clutched the handle like I'd just uncovered a weapon. My heart was pounding so loudly I swear it filled the room. "Where exactly did you stay?" I asked slowly, my throat dry. She forced a laugh, one of those fake laughs that never reach the eyes. "Harold, you're acting weird. It's just work. I'm exhausted. Can we not do this right now?" But her hands were shaking as she dragged the suitcase toward the hallway. I didn't move. I couldn't. That keycard burned into my memory, the glossy red surface taunting me with its silence. Something was wrong, terribly wrong. And for the first time, I felt like my own house wasn't mine anymore. She tried to drag the suitcase down the hallway, but the old wheels caught on the rug. It tilted, wobbled, and with one unlucky tug, the zipper burst halfway open. A few items spilled out: clothes, a travel-sized bottle of perfume, and something that made my blood run cold: a glossy, crumpled Polaroid photo. I grabbed it before she could snatch it. My hands trembled as I stared at it. The picture was blurry but clear enough to make my stomach twist. It wasn't of her at a conference table or in some sterile office. No, it was her at what looked like a poolside cabana, holding a drink with a man's arm slung casually around her shoulders. I could see his wristwatch, his sunglasses pushed onto his head, his hand gripping her shoulder like they'd known each other for years. "Harold, give me that." Her voice cracked as she lunged for the photo. She looked terrified, not angry, not annoyed, terrified. I pulled back, holding the photo like it was evidence in a trial. "What is this, Lillian? Who is he?" I felt my voice shaking. I wanted to scream, but it came out as a whisper, a pathetic, broken whisper. Her mouth opened and closed, like she was scrambling for a believable lie. "It's just a coworker. We were celebrating the end of the project." Her eyes darted away. "It's nothing, Harold, nothing." "Celebrating." I laughed bitterly, my voice rising. "You've never taken a photo with any of your coworkers before. You hate cameras. You hate when people take your picture." She froze, lips pressed tight, as if every excuse had died on her tongue. That was the moment I saw the fear, real fear, in her eyes. Not fear of me yelling, but fear that her entire facade had started to crack. I set the photo on the coffee table between us, my hands shaking. "Tell me, Lillian. Right now? Because if you don't, I'll start looking for answers myself." And then something happened that made my heart stop. Instead of responding, she grabbed her purse, dumped it onto the couch, and started frantically searching for something. Receipts, lipsticks, keys spilled out. She was so desperate I almost thought she'd lost her mind. "What are you doing?" I asked, but she didn't answer. Finally, she pulled out a phone. But not her phone. A second phone. A small, cheap-looking burner phone. My chest tightened as I realized. I had never seen that phone before in my life. I stared at that phone like it was some kind of ticking bomb. It didn't look like her usual sleek smartphone with the glittery case and the dozens of notifications always lighting it up. No, this thing was black, plain, and cheap, like something you'd buy in a gas station just to make calls you don't want anyone to trace. My stomach turned. Lillian's hands were trembling as she held it. For a second, she looked like she didn't know what to do with it, as if the very sight of the phone being exposed had ruined everything she'd planned to keep hidden. She stuffed it back into her purse, but I was already reaching for it. What's that? I asked, my voice low, the kind of tone you use when you're too scared to yell. Harold, please, don't start this right now. It's not what you think. Her voice was pleading, but there was no warmth in it, no love. It was the voice of someone caught in the middle of a lie and scrambling to patch it up. Not what I think. Then tell me, what possible reason would you have for a secret phone? I moved closer, and she instinctively stepped back. That tiny action hurt more than anything else. She used to step toward me when I was upset. Now, she was creating space, like I was the enemy. She finally sighed and said, "It's for work. Sometimes I need a backup number for clients." It was the most pathetic excuse I'd ever heard, and I think she knew it too. Her eyes darted left and right like she was waiting for an escape route to open up. I took a step forward and snatched the phone before she could stop me. The screen was locked, but not with a code, just a swipe. That was her mistake. The second I opened it, my worst nightmares started playing out like a slideshow in my hands. The call log was filled with one number, no name, just a number she'd been calling almost every night she was away. Then I made the mistake of opening the photos. My hands were sweating so badly, I almost dropped the phone. The first photo was of her, Lillian, smiling in that new dress she'd bought for the conference. Only, she wasn't standing in a conference room. She was on a balcony, at sunset, with a man's hand resting on the small of her back. I didn't even see his face, just his hand. But that hand said enough. "Harold, stop." Her voice cracked as she tried to snatch the phone. But I stepped back, my knees shaking. I swiped again. There were more photos. A dinner table with 2 glasses of wine. Her laughing at something. Her hair falling over her shoulders. Her eyes sparkling in a way they hadn't in months. And then I saw it, a video. My heart nearly stopped. I clicked on it, ignoring her desperate "don't watch that." The video started with just the sound of music, some lazy, romantic tune. Then she appeared on the screen, looking right at whoever was recording, smiling that same glowing smile she had when she walked in the door tonight. And I heard her voice say softly, "I'm so glad I came here with you." I don't remember breathing after that. My chest was tight, my vision blurry. I dropped the phone on the couch, my hands trembling. Lillian looked like she was about to cry, but I couldn't even feel pity. All I felt was this cold, hollow rage eating me from the inside out. I don't remember the first words that came out of my mouth. My throat was raw, my hands were shaking, and my pulse was thundering so loudly in my ears that it drowned out everything else. I think I asked her who he was, but it didn't sound like me. It sounded like a stranger, someone desperate and broken. Lillian stood there, eyes wide, tears starting to spill down her cheeks, but she didn't say anything. And that silence, oh God, that silence, was worse than any confession. It was like she had already admitted it without a word. "Say something," I shouted, my voice cracking. I hated how weak I sounded, how pathetic I felt. I've always been the guy who avoids confrontation, who tries to keep things calm, but right then I felt like I was unraveling, thread by thread. Who is he? How long has this been going on? Tell me the truth, Lillian. For once, just tell me the truth. She finally spoke, but it wasn't what I expected. Her voice was small, almost trembling. "Harold, it's not what it looks like." That line, that cursed line, only made me angrier. I laughed bitterly, a sound I barely recognized as my own. "Not what it looks like. Do you even hear yourself? I'm holding a phone full of pictures and videos of you with some guy, and you have the audacity to say it's not what it looks like?" She wiped her face with the back of her hand and looked me dead in the eye. For a moment, I saw something, guilt, fear, and something else I couldn't quite place. "You think I'm proud of this? You think I wanted this to happen?" she said, her voice breaking. It wasn't supposed to be like this, Harold. I didn't plan it." That hit me like a sledgehammer. She didn't deny it. She didn't say I was wrong. She just stood there, admitting it in the only way she knew how. My chest felt like it was collapsing in on itself, like all the air had been sucked out of the room. I wanted to yell, to scream at her, but all I could manage was a broken whisper. "How could you do this to me? After everything? After all the nights I stayed up waiting for you, trusting you?" Lillian stepped closer, reaching out for my hand, but I pulled away like her touch burned me. "I made a mistake," she said softly, tears streaming down her face. "It just happened. I was lonely, Harold. You've been so distant lately, and don't you dare blame this on me." I snapped, my voice rising. I could feel something in me snapping, a thread breaking that could never be fixed. You cheated. You lied to my face, and you're standing here trying to make it sound like I pushed you into it? No. No, Lillian. That's not how this works. She didn't respond. She just stood there, sobbing silently, like a child caught doing something unspeakable. I couldn't stand to look at her anymore. I turned my back, pacing the room, my thoughts spiraling into a dark, chaotic storm. I wanted answers, but at the same time, I was terrified of what else I might find out. That's when I saw the suitcase again. It was still lying half open on the floor, the zipper stuck where it had burst. And something inside caught my eye. An envelope, stuffed into a side pocket, peeking out just enough to be noticed. I walked over slowly, my hands trembling, and pulled it out. Lillian gasped. "Harold, please don't." But it was too late. I opened the envelope and froze. Inside was a stack of receipts from a luxury resort, room service, spa treatments, and charges for 2 people. But what made my hands go cold was the note tucked in between the receipts. A handwritten note, in a man's messy scrawl, that read, "Can't stop thinking about last night. Until next time, L." I felt the world tilt beneath me. My knees almost gave out. This wasn't just some fling. It wasn't just a mistake, like she wanted me to believe. It was something deeper, something ongoing, and the realization made me feel like I was sinking into quicksand with no way out. I don't even remember sitting down, but suddenly I was in the chair by the kitchen table, staring at that note as if it might explain itself if I just looked hard enough. Lillian was pacing back and forth like a trapped animal, her hands tugging at her hair, her face pale and wet with tears. The silence between us was suffocating. I could hear the hum of the refrigerator, the ticking of the wall clock, even my own ragged breathing. I wanted to scream, to throw the note in her face and demand every single answer, but my throat was tight, locked up. Finally, I managed to ask, "How many times?" My voice came out flat, dead, like it wasn't even mine. She froze mid-step. Her back was turned to me, but I could see her shoulders tremble. "Harold, she started, then stopped. The pause was worse than the truth. "How many times?" I repeated, louder this time, slamming my fist onto the table. The sound startled her, and she spun around, wide-eyed like she'd just seen something monstrous. "I don't know," she whispered. "It wasn't supposed to happen more than once. I didn't mean for it to go this far." Her words sliced through me. I felt my chest tighten until it hurt. "You don't know?" I stood up so fast the chair screeched against the floor. "You don't know how many times you've betrayed me? You don't know how many lies you've told? God, Lillian, do you even know who you are anymore?" She took a step toward me, her hands raised like she wanted to calm me down, but I stepped back. I couldn't let her touch me, not after everything I'd just seen. My mind was racing, flashes of her trip running through my head like a movie I never wanted to watch. Her new dress, her sudden excitement about leaving, the vague texts, the way she avoided video calls. Every piece of the puzzle clicked into place, and the picture it formed made me sick. "You're not telling me everything," I said, my voice trembling. "There's more, isn't there? You're hiding something. I can feel it." She didn't respond. She just stood there, biting her lip so hard I thought she might draw blood. That silence told me everything I needed to know. I grabbed the burner phone from the couch and scrolled through it again, my hands shaking so violently I could barely hold it. I opened the message thread with that same number I'd seen before. The first text I read nearly made me drop the phone. "Last night was worth every risk. I can still taste the wine on your lips." I looked up at her, my face burning with humiliation and rage. "Who is he?" I demanded. "Who is this guy, Lillian? Tell me his name. Look me in the eye and tell me who you've been running off to." She shook her head, tears falling again. "It's not that simple," she whispered. "Not that simple." I laughed, but it was a hollow, bitter sound. "You've got a second phone, hidden photos, notes from some guy who's apparently tasting wine on your lips, and it's not that simple." She opened her mouth like she wanted to answer, but then something happened that I'll never forget. A sharp knock echoed from the front door, loud, deliberate, and completely out of place at this hour. We both froze. My heart started pounding again. Lillian's face went white. "Who was that?" I asked, but she didn't answer. She just stood there, her hands shaking. Then came another knock, harder this time. "Lillian," I said slowly, my voice like ice. "Who the hell is at my door at midnight?" The knocking came again, heavier this time. as though whoever was outside knew they weren't going to be ignored. My entire body went cold. We don't get visitors this late. Hell, we don't get visitors ever without warning. Lillian wasn't moving. She just stood in the hallway, staring at the door like she was waiting for it to break down. I swear I saw her lips move as if she was whispering something to herself, maybe a prayer, maybe a curse. "Are you expecting someone?" I asked, though my voice barely came out above a whisper. The look she gave me made my blood run colder than the knocking. It wasn't confusion. It wasn't annoyance. It was fear, raw, unfiltered fear. "Don't answer it," she said suddenly, her voice shaking. "Excuse me? What do you mean, don't answer it? Who the hell is out there?" I was already walking toward the door, my heart pounding with every step. Something about the way she said it made me want to open it even more. I needed to know what kind of nightmare I'd just stumbled into. "Harold, please," she whispered, almost begging now. "Just let it go? Trust me. Don't open the door." That's when I lost it. I turned on her, my hands shaking, my mind spinning. "You cheat on me. You lie to my face. And now someone is banging on our door like they own the place, and you're telling me to ignore it? Are you out of your mind?" Another knock. This one wasn't just loud, it was violent. Whoever was out there was getting impatient. I saw Lillian flinch, her shoulders trembling. For a split second, I almost believed she wasn't the villain here. But I pushed that thought down. She had secrets, and I was going to find out every last one. I stormed to the door, ready to yank it open, but then something happened that stopped me in my tracks. From the other side, I heard a man's voice, deep, firm, and not familiar. "Lillian, it's me. We need to talk. Now." My blood turned to ice. The voice didn't call for us, it called for her. Slowly, I turned to face my wife. Her face was pale as death, her mouth slightly open like she'd been punched in the gut. "Who is that?" I asked. My voice wasn't yelling anymore. It was something worse. It was low and deadly calm, the kind of tone that comes when all the anger burns down into cold steel. Lillian's eyes darted between me and the door. "Harold, please, don't open it. I'll explain everything. Just please." I shook my head, my hand already gripping the doorknob. "No more lies, Lillian. No more games." I flung the door open, and standing there was a man I'd never seen before. Tall, broad-shouldered, with this sharp look in his eyes like he'd been expecting trouble. He glanced at me, but his focus snapped straight to Lillian behind me. "Are you seriously doing this?" he said, his voice dripping with disbelief. "You weren't answering my calls. What the hell is going on?" For a second, I couldn't even speak. My brain was trying to piece together who this guy was, why he was at my door, and why my wife looked like she'd just seen a ghost. "Who the hell are you?" I finally asked, my voice harsh. The man looked at me for the first time like I was an obstacle, not a person. "I'm here for Lillian. This doesn't concern you." "Doesn't concern me?" I laughed bitterly, but there was no humor in it. "You show up at my house, calling my wife's name, and you think this doesn't concern me?" Before he could answer, Lillian stepped forward, her voice breaking. "Ethan, stop. Please. Just go." Ethan. The name echoed in my head like a hammer. I looked from her to him, and that's when I knew. This wasn't just some random guy. He was the one. The man from the photos. The man from the texts. The man who left that note. And as if the night wasn't already spinning out of control, Ethan took a step forward, his jaw tight. "No, Lillian. You don't get to ghost me after what we talked about. He needs to know. You need to tell him, or I will." For a moment, the room felt like it was spinning. Ethan's words hung in the air like smoke I couldn't breathe through, and I stood there, frozen, my hand still on the doorknob. "He needs to know. You need to tell him, or I will." The weight of that sentence crushed whatever scraps of denial I had left. Lillian's face was ashen, her eyes wide like a cornered animal, and I could see her lips quivering. I wasn't sure if she was going to cry or scream, but she didn't either. She just whispered, "Ethan, don't do this. Don't do this." Ethan's voice rose, sharp and cutting. "You had no problem doing that all week. You had no problem promising me things, telling me he didn't make you happy anymore. And now you're going to just pretend like it never happened?" He laughed, but it was a bitter, humorless sound that made my skin crawl. I stared at them both, completely lost. My throat felt tight, my heart pounding in my ears. "What the hell is going on here?" I asked, my voice cracking despite my best effort to sound in control. "What is he talking about, Lillian?" She turned to me, tears streaming down her face, but the words wouldn't come. Harold, I can explain. Explain? I cut her off, my voice trembling with rage. You lied to me for God knows how long. You brought this guy into our lives, into our home. Ethan stepped forward, cutting me off this time. His presence was overwhelming, like he wasn't just here for a conversation, but to make a point I couldn't ignore. She's not lying anymore, Harold. She and we've been seeing each other for months. You probably already know that by now. The words hit me like a punch to the chest. I staggered back slightly, my fingers tightening around the doorframe as if I needed to hold on to something solid to keep from collapsing. Months. My voice came out strangled, barely a whisper. You've been doing this for months? Lillian tried to reach for me, but I pulled away so sharply you'd think her touch would have burned me. Harold, I didn't mean for it to. You didn't mean for it? I shouted, my voice raw now. You didn't mean for what? For me to find out? For me to look like the biggest fool alive while you run off to luxury hotels and take poolside pictures with him? Ethan's jaw clenched. Look, I didn't come here to fight with you, he said, though his tone was laced with irritation. I came here because she needs to stop lying, to both of us. You think I'm just some fling? She told me she was leaving you. She told me she wanted something real. But here she is, standing in your living room, acting like none of it happened. I turned to Lillian, my whole body shaking, my breath coming fast and shallow. You told him that? You told him you were leaving me? Her silence was the confirmation I never wanted. She lowered her head, unable to look me in the eyes. That moment felt like someone had taken a sledgehammer to my chest, shattering everything I believed about our marriage. Harold, I was confused, she finally muttered, her voice barely audible. I didn't know what I wanted. You didn't know what you wanted? I laughed bitterly, but it came out sounding almost like a sob. I spent years trying to make this marriage work. I sacrificed everything for us. And you didn't know what you wanted? Ethan shook his head and turned to leave, but not before muttering. You better figure it out, Lillian. Because I'm not waiting around for this circus any longer. Then he was gone, the door slamming behind him so hard the walls rattled. The silence that followed was deafening. Lillian stood there with her arms wrapped around herself, shaking. I couldn't even look at her. I wanted to leave, to run out into the night, but my legs wouldn't move. I sank into a chair, my mind numb, my hands covering my face as I tried to process everything. And then I heard her whisper something, so soft I almost missed it. There's something else I have to tell you, Harold, something I've been hiding for longer than this affair. I lowered my hands from my face and stared at her, my mind a tangled mess of anger, betrayal, and exhaustion. Something else? I asked, my voice hoarse. What could possibly be worse than what I just heard? She stood there trembling, then slowly walked over to me, kneeling so we were face to face. Her eyes were red and swollen, but there was a strange clarity in them now, like she had finally stopped running. Harold, she began, her voice breaking. I've been lying to myself for years. I let my unhappiness grow like a poison. I thought the answer was somewhere else, someone else. But I was wrong. It's not Ethan. It was never him. It was me, hiding from our problems instead of facing them with you. I wanted to interrupt, to shout again, but something about the way she said it stopped me. There was no defensiveness, no excuses, just raw honesty. She reached for my hand, hesitant at first, and I didn't pull away. My chest was still heavy, but some part of me wanted to hear her out. I was lonely, she admitted softly, and I thought you didn't see me anymore. But that's no excuse. I let something stupid and selfish nearly destroy what we built together. Ethan, he was a mistake, Harold. I cut him off the moment I realized I didn't feel anything real for him. That's why he came here tonight, because I refused to answer him anymore. I shook my head, trying to process it. How am I supposed to believe that? Because I'll do whatever it takes to prove it, she said, her grip on my hand tightening. I'll give you the phone, every password, every account. I'll go to counseling. I'll go to therapy alone if I have to. I don't want to lose you. Not over this. Not over my own stupidity. There was a long silence. I looked at her, really looked at her, and for the first time that night, I saw the woman I fell in love with. The one who used to smile at me like I was the only person in the room. And I realized something. I wasn't blameless either. I'd been distant, buried in work, ignoring the little cracks forming in our marriage. I hadn't fought for us either. I don't know if I can forgive you right now, I said honestly, my voice shaking. But I don't want this to be the end. I want to try. I want to see if we can fix this, together. She started crying, not the quiet, guilty tears from before, but a release, like a weight had been lifted. She leaned into me, and I didn't push her away. For the first time that night, I held her. We stayed like that for what felt like hours, both broken, both hurting, but both willing to face it instead of hiding. The next morning, we packed her suitcase again, not because she was leaving, but because we needed to get away together, just the two of us, to figure out who we were without all the lies and chaos. She deleted the burner phone in front of me, blocked Ethan, and promised me no more secrets. I wasn't sure what the future would hold, but as we drove away that day, her hand resting on mine, I felt something I hadn't felt in months: hope. Maybe this wasn't the end of our story. Maybe it was the painful, messy, necessary beginning of a new one.